Hello guys, so I'm back again with another video or rather audio for my channel. And since you have seen that I record audios or videos um, of this kind and I read it, and since you have not recommended me anything to do, anything new to do, like other than study videos or story reading videos, so I'm doing the same thing. And since I have no OTT subscription right now, neither Amazon, not Netflix, not any Prime or anything, so I could not watch any series, the hit ones that have been in news now. And so I cannot review it or read it out, any plot or any fan theory to you now. And I haven't watched any movies also recently, but maybe I'm going to do it in the winter holidays, in the December month that's coming. And let's see what happens. Or any cooking videos also I can do, or any travel vlogs, since I'm not traveling anywhere right now. Any small traveling here and there can also be, shared with you for your entertainment. And since I read random chapters from random novellas, so let's choose a chapter and read on. Let's see, we're going to choose a random chapter from here. Let's not go far back, because you see, if I go far back, then there will be problems. Yeah, you won't be able to understand the plot of it. Let's see. First, let's choose some. Okay, so let's do chapter 12. I don't know if it's visible from here or not. Yeah, chapter 13. Yeah, so let's do chapter 13 now. And without further ado, and without making the video too much longer, let's dive in. So, so let's read on. Chapter 13. Pierre had not succeeded in fixing upon a career in Petersburg, and really had been banished to Moscow for disorderly conduct. The story told about him at Count Rostov's was true. Pierre had assisted in trying the police officer to the bear. He had arrived a few days previously, stopping as he always did at his father's house, though he had assumed that his story would be already known at Moscow, and that the ladies who were about his father, always unfavorably disposed to him, would profit by this opportunity of turning the count against him. Also went on the day of his arrival to the father's part of the house. Going into the drawing room where the princesses usually sat, he greeted the ladies, two of whom were sitting at their embroidery frames while one read aloud. There were three of them. The eldest, a trim, long waisted, severe maiden lady, the one who had come out to Anna Mihailovna, was reading. The younger ones, both rosy and pretty, were only to be distinguished by the fact that one of them had a little mole which made her much prettier. They were both working at their embroidery frames. Pierre was received like a man risen from the dead or stricken with plague. The eldest princess paused in her reading and stared at him in silence, with dismay in her eyes. The second assumed precisely the same expression. The youngest, the one with the mole, who was of a mirthful and laughing disposition, bent over her frame to conceal a smile, probably evoked by the amusing scene she foresaw coming. She pulled her embroidery wool out below and bent down as though examining the pattern, hardly able to suppress her laughter. "Good morning, cousin," said Pierre. "You don't know me?" I know you only too well, only too well. How is the Count? Can I see him? Pierre asked, awkwardly, as always, but not disconcerted. The Count is suffering both physically and morally, and your only anxiety seems to be to occasion him as much suffering as possible. Can I see the Count? Repeated Pierre. If you want to kill him outright. You can see him, Olga. Go and see if Uncle's broth is ready. It will soon be time for it, she added, to show Pierre that they were busy, and busy in seeing after his father's comfort, while he was obviously only in busy in causing him discomfort. Olga went out. Pierre stood still a moment, looking at the sisters, and bowing, said, Then I will go to my room. When I can see him, you will tell me. He went away and heard the ringing, but not loud laugh of the sister with the mole behind him. The next day Prince Vasily had come and settled in the court's house. He sent for Pierre and said to him, My dear fellow, if you behave here as you did at Petersburg, you will come to a very bad end. That's all I have to say to you. The Count is very, very ill. You must not see him. Since then, Pierre had not been disturbed, and he spent the whole day alone in his room upstairs. So here we see that Pierre has come home uh, because he went to Petersburg maybe to, let's do a little bit discussion, yeah. So he had gone to Petersburg to do a little bit of fix his career or something, but he had some misfortune there, and he had been banished to Moscow for disorderly conduct. And the story about this had spread far and wide. And now he has come home to his sisters. There were three sisters. One was reading something aloud, and the other two were sitting at embroidery. They were really a bit. It's not called mocking. They were jesting with him, their little brother or cousin, because they were actually cousins. And he had heard that the Count, the father of the three sisters, he had fallen ill for some reason, and he wanted to see him. Yeah, and the cousins were telling that they were showing him that they were busy in order to avoid him, probably, and they did not allow him to outright go and see the Count. And so Pierre went to his bedroom and was sitting there for rest of the time. Okay, so now let's read on. The next day, Prince Vasily had come and settled in the Count's house. He sent for Pierre and said to him, My dear fellow, if you behave here as you did at Petersburg, you'll come to a very bad end. So I think I've read it also. So Prince Vasily had come the next day, and we don't know Prince Vasily here because we did not read the chapters before. Probably he's some friend and could be a family member also of Pierre and the three sisters. So he had come and settled in the court of the Count, and he kind of warned Pierre that however you behaved in Petersburg, if you do that here in this court, then you'll be having a very bad end. Because there he was banished to Moscow, and here he's almost in his home, I guess. This is his home, so if he does it here also, then he will have no place to go. So that's why Pierre was warned, and after that he went to his room and was not disturbed by anyone, or he also didn't disturb anyone. Okay, let's read on. At the moment when Boris came in, Pierre was walking up and down his room, stopping now and then in the corners, making menacing gestures at the wall, as though thrusting some invisible enemy through with the lance Then he gazed sternly over his spectacles, then pacing up and down again, murmuring indistinct words, shrugging his shoulders and gesticulating. England's day is over, he said, scowling and pointing at someone with his finger. Mr. Pitt, as a traitor to the nation and to the rights of man, is condemned, he said. Not time to deliver Pitt's sentence, imagining himself at that moment Napoleon, and having in the person of his hero succeeded in the dangerous crossing of the Channel and in the conquest of London. When he saw a graceful, handsome young officer come in, he stood still. Pierre had seen Boris last as a boy of 14 and did not remember him at the least. But in spite of that, he took his hand in his characteristically quick and warm hearted manner and smiled cordially at him. You remember me? Boris said calmly with a pleasant smile. I have come with my mother to see the Count, but it seems he is not quite well. He is ill, it seems. People are always bothering him, answered Pierre, trying to recall who this youth might be. Boris perceived that Pierre did not know him, but did not think fit to make himself known, and without the slightest embarrassment looked him straight in the face. Count Rostov asks you to come to dinner with him today, he said, and rather a long silence, somewhat disconcerting for Pierre. Ah, Count Rostov, began Pierre, delighted. So you are his son, Ilya. Can you believe it? For the first moment I did not recognize you. Do you remember how you used to slide on the Sparrow Hills with Madame Jacquet long ago? You are mistaken, said Boris, deliberately, with a bold and rather sarcastic smile. I am Boris, son of Princess Anna Mihailovna Drubetsky. It is the father of Rostovs, who is called Ilya, the sons Nikolai, and I don't know any Madame Jacquet. Pierre shook his hands and head as though flies or bees were swarming upon him. Ah, how is it? I've mixed it all up. There are a lot of relatives in Moscow. You are Boris. Yes. Well, now we have got it clear. Tell me, what do you think of the Boulogne expedition? Things will go badly with the English, if Napoleon gets across the Channel. I believe that the expedition is very possible, if only Villeneuve doesn't make a mess of it. Boris knew nothing at all about the Boulogne expedition, and it was the first time he had heard of Villeneuve. Here in Moscow, we are more interested in dinner parties and scandal than in politics, he said in his self-possessed, sarcastic tone. I know nothing and think nothing about it. Moscow's more engrossed in scandal than anything, he went on. Just now, they are all talking about you and about the Count. Pierre smiled his kindly smile, as though afraid for his companion's sake that he might say something he would regret. But Boris spoke distinctly, clearly, and dryly, looking straight into Pierre's face. There is nothing else to do in Moscow but talk scandal, he went on. Everyone's absorbed in the question whom the Count will leave his fortune to, though perhaps he will outlive us all, as I sincerely hope he may. Yes, all that's very horrid, Pierre interposed. Very horrid. Pierre was still afraid this officer would inadvertently drop into some remark disconcerting for himself. And it must seem to you, said Boris, flushing slightly, but not changing his voice or attitude, it must seem to you that everyone's thinking of nothing but getting something from him. That's just it, thought Pierre. And that's just what I want to say to you, to prevent misunderstandings. That you are very much mistaken if you reckon me and my mother among those people. We are very poor, but at least I, speak for myself. Just because your father is rich, I don't consider myself a relation of his, and neither I nor my mother would ever ask him for anything or take anything from him. It was a long while before Pierre understood, but he did understand. He jumped up from the sofa, seized Boris' hand with his characteristic quickness and awkwardness, and blushing far more than Boris, began speaking with a mixed sensation of shame and annoyance. Well, this is strange. Do you suppose I. How you could think? I know very well. But Boris again interrupted him. I'm glad I've told you everything frankly. Perhaps you dislike it. You must excuse me, he said, trying to put Pierre at his ease. Okay, so we are almost at the end of the chapter. I have actually read quite a bit. There's a lot of sound actually coming in the background. There's something I think going on, and so I have added some music also here. I hope my viewers or my listeners like it. So there's nothing much to explain because these are classics, and everyone kind of knows what a classic story or novella is, and this is pretty much a very common novel, which I think all of you must have read, or if you haven't, please hear it from here. And if you want me to read chapter 1, do comment and let me know, and I'll be doing it for you. So what we have read here is not much to be explained, because this Pierre guy, who was really snubbed by his sisters from going and visiting the count, who might be his father or uncle, somebody like that, his close relations, was sitting in his chamber, in his bedroom, and somebody in the court also warned him that he cannot continue his behavior that he continued in Petersburg, here in his home, because that would mean that he will be banished from his home too. And then then somebody called Boris came to our protagonist, and he was a very practical and straight speaking person, as we say, and he spoke quite sharply without taking into account who Pierre or his status was and who he was. First, Pierre could not actually recognize him, and he thought him to be Ilya, Count Rostov's son. But then he corrected Pierre about who he actually was, and it turns out that he is also some kind of relation of Pierre, he and his mother, Boris and his mother. But he was not, and he was very poor as contrasting to them, he and his sisters. But he was not asking for anything and had just come to see the count because he had heard about his illness. And he had spoken very frankly despite the frustration that was growing upon, and mixed sensations of shame and annoyance that was growing upon Pierre's heart after hearing who Boris was. But still he was quite straight and plain speaking about that, and spoke quite sharply about it. Okay, so let's read the rest of the chapter, and if there's any explaining to do, I'll do then, or reviewing. But then again, classics can't be reviewed. Okay. No, let me tell you, said Pierre, regaining his composure. You're a wonderful person. What you have just said was very fine, very fine. Of course you don't know me. It's a long since we have seen each other. We were children. You might suppose I should. I understand. I quite understand. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have had the courage. But it's splendid. I'm very glad I have made your acquaintance. A queer idea, he said, pausing and smiling. You must have heard of me. He laughed. But what of it? Let us know each other better, please. He pressed Boris's hand. Do you know, I have not once seen the Count. He has not sent for me. I am sorry for him, as a man. But what can one do? And so you think Napoleon will succeed in getting his army across? Boris queried, smiling. Pierre saw that Boris was trying to change the conversation, and so he began explaining the advantages and difficulties of the Boulogne expedition. A footman came in to summon Boris to the princess. The princess was going. Pierre promised to come to dinner in order to see more of Boris and pressed his hand warmly at parting, looking affectionately into his face over his spectacles. When he had gone, Pierre walked for some time longer up and down his room, not thrusting at an unseen foe, but smiling at the recollection of that charming, intelligent, and resolute young man. And so often happens with young people, especially if they are in a position of loneliness. He felt an unreasonable tenderness for this youth, and he firmly resolved to become friends with him. Prince Vasily accompanied the princess to the hall. The princess was holding her handkerchief to her eyes, and her face was tearful. "It is terrible, terrible," she said, "but whatever it costs me, I will do my duty. I will come to stay the night. He can't be left like this. Every minute is precious. I can't understand why his nieces put it off. Maybe God will help me to find a way to prepare him. Adieu, Prince. May God support you." "Adieu, my kind friend," answered Prince Vasily, turning away from her. "Oh, he is in an awful position," said the mother to her son when they were sitting in the carriage again. "He scarcely knows anyone." "I don't understand, Mamma, what his attitude is as regards Pierre." "The will make all that plain, my dear. Our fate too hangs upon it. But what makes you think he will leave us anything?" "Oh, my dear, he's so rich, and we are so poor." "Well, that's hardly a sufficient reason, Mamma." "Oh, my God, how ill he is! How ill he is!" cried the mother. So here we see that the mother and son is some kind of relative to the count, and they also came to see him. And Pierre was trying to avoid them because he thought that they, along with others who are coming, other relatives who are coming there after his fortune, that because he is ill now. But Boris made it clear that they just came to see him, and after they had seen him, they were like praying for his good health, and they were sitting in a carriage and going home and discussing that what will he will make and something like that. Though that was only, I think, a point of discussion. What they were really interested in was his health, and the mother really thought that, and hoped rather, that he makes it well or through if he could, or prepare a proper adieu for him. Okay, so if you want me to go to the next chapter, there's not much explaining to do in this chapter. As you can see that Pierre, our protagonist, he just arrived at his home and found out that the count is ill from the sisters, and the sisters didn't let him into the room, into the count's presence, and the count didn't send for him either. And then he made Boris, who also claimed to be a relative, but then choked it off uh, rather inadvertently. So he might be some kind of relative. So they also came, he with his family. Mom came to see the count, and they saw him, and they are just going away. It's just a piece of a whole story that has been highlighted here. Nothing is nothing can be made out from here unless and until the whole novella is read. Only a part of it, even though it has been good reading it since it's a classic. And should I continue with the next chapter? Please let me know, or I'll just maybe, let me see what's the length of the video. Yeah, it's almost 24 minutes, so I think I'll end it here. Do let me know what to do next. I like to do something new even, rather than the story reading and study videos. That is really, really interesting. And do like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you actually like it, or if you don't want to, then just enjoy the audio. And ciao.